Welcome to What's Going On. I'm your host, Angela Bozorth. I want to thank you so much for tuning in this evening, and I've got some wonderful guests to talk about some things that are coming up here the summer of 2013 on the Space Coast. My first guest is Kathi Ridner. She is the director at One Senior Place. Thank you so much for coming in this afternoon, Kathi.
Thank you so much for having me, Angela. I appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, well, there are so many people in our community who are retiring or getting ready for retirement age or are caring for somebody who is in the senior portion of their life. And so I guess to start out with, what is One Senior Place?
That's a really good question. One Senior Place is a one-stop marketplace with senior-focused businesses on site, with the goal and premise of connecting people with the appropriate solutions, services, and answers. In our building, we actually have senior-focused businesses, but in addition to that, we've got relationships with a number of wonderful senior-focused businesses. Our website is a full listing of every licensed agency and literally everything from A to Z. Everything from how to get help at home, where to live if you can't live at home anymore, transportation if you can't drive, physician referrals, nonprofit organizations, literally everything from A to Z.
So this is a referral organization that is one of the primary goals. So those of us that maybe had thought it was an assisted living facility know that it's much broader and more complex.
Yes, it is. It's funny. We have people thinking that we are either an assisted living facility, or oftentimes they think we're a senior center, and we're neither of those. But everything we do is senior focused. So through the idea behind One Senior Place, we help people connect with the answers through a free 30-minute consultation. That's the biggest most important element of what we offer folks. In the course of that conversation and that consultation, we help identify chief areas of concern. Safety, medication, socialization, health crises, and really help that person understand what the art of the possible is.
And as we began speaking before we began taping this evening, oftentimes you had said that people reach out to your services in some type of a crisis mode. And they are pleasantly surprised once that the crisis has been managed, you assist them with that, to see actually what all of the other ranges of services and connections that you're able to help them with.
That's correct. It's interesting. Most people come in the midst of a crisis, and when I'm speaking with them and they're coming to seek one answer, my husband fell and broke his hip, and he's in the rehab facility and he's coming home and I don't know what to do. I help that person find the right services to put in place, how to bring him home, how to tap into the Medicare home health services that they're eligible for, grocery shopping assistance, the whole gamut. And it's always a pleasant surprise for that person to realize that I was able to give them an answer to 2 or 3 things instead of just the one thing that they came to us for. So we look at the big picture. I ask a series of leading questions for that person, and through that investigation process, that's how we uncover many of the problems that they're faced with.
So you move from crisis management to life management.
Yes, ma'am.
So,
yeah,
great.
long-term planning is a really key thing. I'm always saying to people that it's better to have a plan than a crisis.
Absolutely. So I think that we're pretty easy to establish that in a crisis, most likely it would be health care, so or some type of a medical issue. But you also had told me that living, the place that someone lives, that is right up there with the health issue is what initially drives people to One Senior Place.
That's true. It's actually, that is the number one thing that people come to us for. The majority of people that I meet, their statement is, I want to live in my own home till the day I die. So they don't think of what plan B is. They don't look at the options. They don't even consider it. And then they're faced with a crisis, and staying home is no longer the appropriate option. They literally don't know where to go. So coming to us, you know, the choices that we have in Brevard County are really wonderful, but they're all created differently.
Right.
And what's right for you is not going to be right for me. Right. So through this consultation, I ask them questions about their health care needs, their finances. Do they have long-term care insurance that might help pay for this? Were they a veteran? Are they eligible for veterans benefits? So that process helps me lean them toward the right referral.
Do you find, especially where someone lives, since that is such a personal, complex issue, that sometimes it is kind of difficult to gear someone into a role that now maybe feels uncomfortable, meaning, you know, I've owned this home for 30 years with my husband, now he's passed away, and it's just difficult to let go on more of an emotional level
Yes.
than realistically what's best for me.
That's absolutely true, and I think that in addition to the emotional ties, there is this overwhelming roadblock of, I have a lifetime of memories in this house, I have a lifetime of furniture and stuff, and I don't know what to do with it, so I won't think about it today. I'll worry about that next week. And it's such a big roadblock, it literally paralyzes them into inactivity. So again, through this discussion that I have with them, I help them kind of look at how to do it in pieces. You know, I can give them a referral, for example, to an estate sales business. So they can come over and identify what they don't want to keep, and they can help them sell it, and suddenly it starts to look like a more manageable process.
Right, it doesn't seem so impossible.
Exactly,
But
exactly.
you bring up an excellent point that, one, just the logistics of sorting and moving through personal things, even leaving apart the emotional, sentimental connection.
Right.
And also, a lot of people, especially the retirees who live here in Central Florida and throughout Florida, are isolated otherwise or disconnected from their family, the younger members of family. So just the logistics of it, I would think, are a big issue.
And you're touching on a very important fact. Most people retire here because it's a fabulous place to retire. And their children live in California and Arizona and New York, so they don't have a support network on a lot of levels, you know, to help them decide to move, or if there's a crisis, they have nobody to fall back on. So, you know, One Senior Place really fills an important role in that. We can provide those answers and solutions and support for them through a number of business entities and services that can be provided for them.
So it seems like also that One Senior Place provides that necessary support system that otherwise would be filled through family members, if that was closer.
Yeah, we actually do that through two different businesses that are associated with One Senior Place. The original company is called Senior Partner In-Home Care. They provide caregivers in the home setting. That's certainly a very important solution for people who want to stay home longer. Because they need that extra support. Through that company's growth and success, the idea for One Senior Place came about. And through the growth of One Senior Place and the consultation process, we met people time and time again who would come in and say, well, gosh, Kathi, those are really great referrals you gave me, but I don't know how to do this. Can you help me? Or adult children who would come in the midst of a crisis and say, these are great referrals, but I'm leaving to go back to California tomorrow morning. I can't do it. Can you do it for me? Well, initially, we did not have the ability to do that. So we developed a care management division so that people can hire us to help them carry out those referrals and make sure that they're being done. So we really have been looking to be a solution-oriented businesses.
Now you bring up a good piece that I want to talk more about, which is the role of the caregiver and making sure their needs are provided. But before that, talking more about One Senior Place, a little bit about the history of One Senior Place. How long have you been here in our community, and how large you are here in our community?
One Senior Place was built and opened a little over 7 years ago by Don and Beth Kramer. We have a second location to serve the greater Orlando area that opened a year ago, February, so February of 2012. And again, it's really sort of a simple but powerful concept to connect seniors and their caregivers with the solutions and answers.
I think that ahead of time that it's kind of like the one-stop shop as far as for information for the later years in one's life. Kind of all of those things that are important, not just the physical piece, but the mind, body, and spirit connection.
Absolutely,
So great.
absolutely. And interestingly enough, when we meet with adult children, they're starting to recognize as they see their parents failing or facing a health crisis, it's suddenly prompting them to say, wow, I really need to start thinking about this for myself. I need to look into, boy, should I get long-term care insurance? Are my financial investments going to carry me through retirement? Am I going to outlive my money, or am I going to be smart enough to make it work for me? So it really prompts them to start asking themselves some really key questions and do life planning, as you mentioned at the very beginning. Life planning and coming up with a plan B. Everybody should have a plan B, even if you never use it.
Right, because I believe that when we were prepping for our interview this evening, you had mentioned that one of the issues is a lot of people now that we're living longer, all of us, that's one of the blessings of medical advancement. Unfortunately, a lot of us are living longer than our money. And we, as we get older, we are not able to work as hard, so we can't continue to replenish, and yet the money goes out much faster than it comes in.
That's exactly correct. Yeah, I see that quite frequently, and again, it's kind of a danger to adult children because they willingly and lovingly want to help their parents. And I've met with people time and again who are tapping into their own retirement to take care of their aging parents. So it's kind of a trickle-down effect. Then they're vulnerable when they're a senior. So it really is important for people to really stop and kind of identify what's going on, look for solutions that are appropriate. Solutions that are appropriate for the aging parents while keeping that person's financial security intact.
Very important. Now, I did want to bring up again the importance of caring for the caregiver, which is something that it's been brought more into the forefront of attention lately, that a lot of most of the focus goes on the partner who has the health crisis, whereas oftentimes the caregiver is struggling or suffering just as much, but without the resources or the support. So.
That's a huge problem. I see it so frequently, and it is such an alarming trend. There are statistics that show that the caregiver who's doing the caregiving generally will have a health crisis and die before the loved one that they're taking care of. And many of these people, most of them do it out of love and devotion. You know, they feel like, okay, it's my husband or my wife, I should be doing this. But what they don't realize is by allowing a little bit of help to come in, professional or church members or friends or neighbors, it actually strengthens their ability to continue to care for their loved one, because it's giving them that respite that they need. You know, the old adage, you know, if you're on a plane, they instruct mothers, if the oxygen mask pops down, you have to put that on first because you can't save your children if you're failing or if you have a health crisis. And it's the same thing with people that are taking care of a loved one. So
now, you have an event coming up. Every day is Veterans Day.
Yes.
So please tell us about this upcoming event.
Thank you, thank you. Vitas Innovative Hospice is a nationwide hospice provider with an office at One Senior Place and a huge presence in Brevard County. They actually have a wonderful, very specific division that serves veterans and their loved ones at the end of their life. They have a specific social worker and community liaison that helps families fill out the paperwork and tap into veterans' benefits that they're entitled to. When the loved one passes away, they provide support afterwards to help that person fill out paperwork and get the proper things filled out so that they continue to get benefits after their death, providing emotional support both in the home and through many other services. So Vitas approached One Senior Place and they said, you know, we would really love to do something to really recognize the veterans in Brevard County. So we partnered together to develop this idea. This event is going to take place on Friday, July the 26th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And we actually had to change the venue, believe it or not. We were going to host it at One Senior Place. We're fully anticipating such a big response that it was going to be beyond our capacity to host it at our location. So we're now going to host it at the Brennedy at Melbourne. That is formerly known as Watersong, located up just west of the Viera Hospital. So we're very excited. It's all about veterans. Our keynote speaker is Norris Burks, who of course is a syndicated columnist with Florida Today. We will have nonprofit organizations that serve seniors and their loved ones, as well as many business providers and sponsors of the event who will be present to talk to them and help them understand what's available for them. And
this is not just for senior veterans, this is for all veterans in the community.
It's for all veterans.
Awesome. Yes. Now, how can people find out more about this event, which is free to the public?
Good question. They can go to One Senior Place's website, oneseniorplace.com, or they can call our office, 321-751-6771, and we'd be happy to tell them about it.
Great. Well, Kathi Ridner, the director of One Senior Place, thank you so much for coming in and educating our viewers.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more of the show.
From Iraq and Afghanistan, our brave warriors are coming home, wounded. Some with wounds you can see, some with wounds you can't see. Wounded Warrior Project was created to support our men and women coming off the battlefield. Please help carry these warriors the rest of the way home. Get involved at woundedwarriorproject.org.
Welcome back. Oftentimes in media today, any stories about our youth is usually followed by something negative. And with this segment, I'm very glad to have somebody here from the area who is telling us about the positive things that are going on college campuses right here in Florida. Bryan Behl is campus missionary with the Great Commission Ministries. Thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Again, I tried to leave this out to be something about positive youth stories. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes people think about, for college, they think about fraternities and sororities and oftentimes different types of partying in addition to the higher learning. However, this is a time that people are still reaching out to a time of faith. And despite having the internet, there are kids that obviously are still reaching out to do missionary work and volunteerism. So tell us about your program, the Great Commission Ministries.
Yes, sure. Great Commission Ministries is a missions organization that trains, employs, and serves missionaries with specific emphases on evangelism, discipleship, and church planting. They exist to empower the local church to be able to reach into places that would not otherwise be able to financially afford it. But those places exactly are the ones in desperate need. And college campuses is certainly one of those places, and that's where I'll be focusing, specifically at the University of Florida.
Awesome. And now you are a graduate from Gainesville's University of Florida program. So tell us about, I guess, the feeling that oftentimes people, young people, they feel they're going to college to be able to improve their chances of making a good living, not just make a living, but be successful and make money. And yet most, if not all of the colleges now are requiring volunteerism. And so have you found that there is more of a willingness of young people now to volunteer, to connect with missionary work and volunteer work?
Yeah, I mean, I imagine that the college campus has always been sort of an environment for that, but so it's sort of been inbred, especially with bright futures requiring community service while you're still in high school. And there's an idealism on college campuses,
right,
which can be good or bad. Some of it is very idealistic in the nature of humanity, which can lead people to not need God, not need those old superstitions. But also there's a nobleness to it, a willingness to give back, to help the community, the homeless, go overseas. And we see a lot of that, not merely with college students in general, but the Christian students specifically, because they see not only do we need to care for people's physical needs, their felt needs, but also their eternal ones, where we can share the gospel with them, help train them to share the gospel with others, and make a lasting impact, to have a legacy that actually matters in this world. So it's really cool.
Right. We were speaking before we began taping the show this evening about oftentimes people of science feel that science and a belief in a higher being, God, if you will, can't mutually coexist. And yet, if you look back historically, the great men of history, from Socrates or whoever, most of them had very strong faith in a belief of something higher.
Oh, absolutely. Even on one of the buildings that used to be the pharmacy college at UF, it says over the door, enter to think God's thoughts after him, exit to execute, or to use that knowledge for works of service to him. UF was founded as a seminary. It's certainly not a religious school anymore. And it's funny because there is this popular notion that science and religion or faith, and Christianity specifically, are a dangerous combination, or should be, are mutually exclusive. And yet we're a college campus church of 250 college students, many of whom, probably I would guess almost half, are engineers. They know science, and yet they have a very robust faith in Christ. It's in fact many of the unscientific or more liberal arts students that we find are more resistant to claims of faith, when they in fact should be the ones embracing it more. The study of the humanities inevitably leads, I would say, to a belief in God and to a search for Him, and yet we see that they're some of the hardest students to reach.
I wanted to ask you, what are some of the major motivating things that your individual Great Mission Ministries focuses on giving back to the community? So what are some of the projects that you work on?
Sure. A lot of our work is in leadership development within the college students, whether that's someone outside bringing them in and helping train them up. Certainly a spiritual element, but also just in general, teaching them to be initiators, to be leaders. Virtually everything we do in Gator Christian Life, the church on campus at UF, is run by and done by college students. I exist as a missionary there to help equip them to do that and to bring more people into that. We spend our summers overseas or in the States helping church plants get started. Students will move to another city for 2 months, get jobs, and in the evenings help a church. So they're learning work ethic, they're learning what it's like to have a job and also be a Christian on mission. They're helping church plants get started, whether in the United States or internationally. And ultimately our goal is, with the knowledge that we are going to have them for 4 years. Like, we're not a church that's trying to keep everyone forever. I mean, we're a college church. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
We're going to be able to give these developed leaders, these people who can train other people, who know how to initiate, to these other churches. So after they graduate, after they move to another city, wherever it is, they're going to be making an impact in their community. And as we know, the Gator Nation's everywhere, and our hope is to have Christian Gators everywhere too.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. And again, it sounds like that, again, one of the goals is, especially as you do the church planting, is to kind of build this connection to the community, but give back to the community. And I think that's probably one of the core goals of any type of volunteer program. And so many of us, I know I'm guilty of it. When I hear the term missionary, I think faraway lands, but actually a lot of the missionary work is done right here, if not in our own state, at least in the United States.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, we're all missionaries. Anyone who's a follower of Christ knows that they are on mission, right? The Great Commission says, go make disciples. And so, as a professional or whatever, someone who's paid to do it, who gets to do it full time, I have a privilege of doing that full time. I get to work with the college students and help them develop that mindset that, yeah, you're going to be an engineer, yeah, you're going to be a teacher, but you also, wherever you are going to try to live an embodied Christian life. And that's really exciting to me, that we can sort of mimic the incarnation in that we're going to live out Christ here on earth, and that will impact your community. You can't be a Christian following Christ and not care about the poor, not care about the needs of your students, the needs of your coworkers. You can't turn a blind eye to those issues. It does not work.
Now let me ask you, as a young college student, when you first went off to Gainesville, even though you're a proud Christian, did you find it easy to stand up and speak about your faith as a whole to the college campus and not worry about maybe alienating some people that, if you're talking about all that religion, that's not fun, and worry about peer pressure?
There was, my initial concern actually going to UF was UF's one of the top party schools in the nation in general, almost #1 every year. And
a proud legacy.
Yeah. So the Christians there must be terrible, was my thought. I'm not gonna hang out with any of them, and I'm gonna do my own thing. And it was terrible. And praise God that some people from Gator Christian Life reached out to me. And so that from there, I saw these people living authentic Christian lives, just genuine in their faith. They were helping start churches. They were reaching out to their classmates. They actually cared about you and wanted to talk to you, not just chit chat. They were memorizing not merely like single verses. They were memorizing books of the Bible and just trying to study and understand what they meant. And it changed my perspective of Christianity. And so it inspired me to do the same, which is again what we're trying to do: make disciples who make disciples. So maybe in the classroom, it's difficult sometimes to speak up. The teachers will browbeat you or just have their agenda. Although again with perhaps a certain amount of thought and training, you can respond well. But perhaps in social scenes, it's actually much easier because people are still trying to figure out what they believe, and they're willing to engage you if you're willing to listen to what they have to say.
Because for over the years, whenever I've presented any type of material to a young group, most young people are very open about, they have a sense of spirituality and are very comfortable either with the concept of Christianity and God or whatever faith that they pursue. So we know that's there and it's important, but again, that peer pressure and wanting to be included.
Right.
So do you find that now young people, or is it always a struggle to stand up? Again, for instance, if you have a professor that you know is going to kind of maybe call you out or perhaps make you look silly or something like that, to stand up for your views and beliefs.
Yeah.
Is it harder or easier? Or?
It depends, again, I would say how prepared you are and just the way you go about it. Frequently, you have to recognize you're in a classroom setting when this professor is trying to belittle you or whatever, but he's the one making the claims. So if you can just ask questions as opposed to standing up and saying, well, the Bible says, this is not a context where everyone agrees what the Bible says. But I can use our shared human experience and say, well, professor, what about, and now he's still making claims, and I'm just asking questions and trying to show, well, this doesn't make sense what you're saying, and it doesn't mesh with reality. And so in that way, with training students to approach it that way, the classroom can actually be a very fruitful place to share your faith. And then your classmates afterwards will come up and talk to you, and you can initiate with them.
Because oftentimes I would be willing to think, as in most scenarios, what you may have the courage to stand up and say afterward, people may say, I think the same thing. So as we finish up, how many campuses are currently have Great Commission ministries here in the area, or Florida?
In the state of Florida, there are Great Commission churches at UF, FSU. In St. Petersburg, it reaches out to the St. Pete campus of USF. However, it's not actually on campus there. Jacksonville at UNF, and they've recently planted a community church to reach out to Jacksonville as well. And then there are other churches in Miami and Orlando, not affiliated with college campuses.
Great. And if someone is interested in finding out more about Great Commission Ministries, maybe supporting it, or it's something they think that them or their children might be interested in connecting more with, because interestingly, while 75% I believe are under 30, that it's anywhere from age in your 20s to your 80s, so it's not just for teens. Right?
Yeah, Great Commission Ministries employs missionaries all over the world. And so the age range varies. We're planting churches in Japan and the Dominican Republic, all over the place. The website for Great Commission Ministries is www.gcmweb.org. There's a link to it on my own personal website. If you want to go to multiplyingdisciples.net, that will explain more about what's going on at UF, the church in Gainesville, what I'm doing presently in Melbourne, and also we'll link you to Great Commission Ministries and all that. So.
Okay. Well, Bryan Behl, thank you so much for coming in and teaching us that the great leaders of tomorrow not only have intelligence but faith.
Yeah. Thank
All
you.
the best.
My pleasure.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back to wrap up this edition of What's Going On.